Hi everyone, and welcome back to QuantumAcacias. This one is going to be really fun, actually. It's actually super interesting. So today is the new moon, so I'm actually going to go ahead and post this today. We're going to be talking about a little bit of, quote unquote dreams, but we're also going to be talking about Mandela effects, reality shifting. And also I'm just going to sprinkle in here the concept of gods, goddesses, mythological beings, and then static versus dynamic characters. I feel like that has been coming up a lot. Okay. So today is the new moon in Scorpio. I do also have on my other channel, Acacias Ascension. I have the Christmas Subliminal. So make sure that you check that out because we are getting started. Actually, I love Christmas so much. I was saying this on the other video that I posted too. I love Christmas so much. My birthday is the day after Christmas, so I'm such a Christmas baby. And it's funny because I was supposed to actually be a Pisces. I was actually supposed to be born on like March 9th. But I'm like, girl, I'm so glad we came during Christmas season. Like, oh gosh. Okay, let me get focused because that's like a whole nother thing. Okay, let me get focused. I think I'm also going to post my QHHT session video. I was going to wait for that, but I think I'm actually going to post that today as well. And it's got some connections to Atlas. And then I also had this dream about Cloud Atlas. I don't know if I should put all of that in this one thing. It is a theme that's coming up though. Yeah, we'll see. I might talk about that too. Let's talk about that too, but let's get into this dream, okay? So 831, 833 are very significant. So if you start seeing those numbers for a period in time after this video, it could be sinking you into these concepts, themes for a period in time, okay? This is also recording 36, which every time I see 36, I think about 360 degrees is a complete circle. Fun fact, December 26th is the 360th day of the year. I found that on Pi as well. It is also connected to, it is the zero. Wait, because it's really funny because it's not the 0th number, but the 360th number, I think, or is that what it was? I think 1226 was in the 360th position, or 360 numbers after pi is 0. It could actually be both of those. But anyways, I just thought that was fun. So when I see 36, I also think about that, a complete circle. Also 369 method, which definitely works. I talked about that in my video with Newt, who I do associate with 833, which also is associated to business numbers. I can't speak to that aspect of a child because I can't say I've got a whole lot of business wealth right now. It's in the works, but it ain't here yet. So I'm not sure in what way she works with business. It might be like a long haul, build. It ain't a short term thing. But yeah, that's a whole other conversation. I don't want to get too deep into that. Okay, so my dream this morning. So I woke up actually this morning feeling very apathetic, I think I would say. And I think, it's just kind of like there's always so many things going on that sometimes I have these bouts of just apathy where it's just like, okay, it's just like another day and I'm not sure really what to do. And it kind of feels like I'm, throwing things at the wall and kind of seeing what sticks to a certain extent, because I'm not really throwing things at the wall randomly. Like there are things that I'm developing, but I'm like, okay, which one do I focus on today? That part of it can feel like unstable sometimes. And I'm unsure of like how long to work on it or how stable I have to be to actually think about certain concepts. It can like apathetic in that way. And so I was talking to myself in the mirror and I'm like, girl, is that how we want to feel? Today is the new moon. There's a lot of energy, you know, and the Scorpio energy, you can take it and, you know, go down the whirlwind of negative emotions. Do you know what I'm saying? Like, and I'm saying that not because I feel like, you know, Scorpios are like a dark abyss or anything. They can be though. They can be though. And their dark is a whole different type of dark. I feel like it's like the cheetah waiting to attack you in the bush. Like, but anyways, but I'm like, okay, but where's like the light side of this? And the light side of it is that when you do kind of integrate with your shadow and you're not afraid of it or anything like that, then you have the ability to, in a sense, be apathetic, right? And that sounds kind of funny, but I'm saying it in that, I can like see some movement in here. Very interesting. You know, and you get the ability to be apathetic. And what I mean by that, like the lighter side of apathy is that you get the ability to kind of stand still without emotions taking over, right? And it's interesting because I'm going to give like an example of, I was talking to one of my family members, last night and then this morning, and he was telling me that he was feeling like he was in hell. And this kind of goes to the static and dynamic thing with like gods and goddesses too, in a certain sense. But he was telling me he felt like he was in hell, and so he was crying. I was actually meant to say calling, but yeah. But, you know, he was calling to get like some type of reassurance because no one was answering the phone, right? And I'm like, well, it's probably the right person that picked up. Honestly, that's probably what it was. You were calling the wrong people. That's why. But anyways, so we're having this conversation. And then this morning I was like letting him know that, you know, it's not really about being in hell that is the issue, right? Like, it's not really being in hell that's the issue, because at a certain level, you want to be able to, you know, in a sense, go to any hood, and you don't necessarily have to thrive there, but you should at least be able to walk the street to a certain extent and be okay. Do you know what I'm saying? So it's not the positioning of where you are in that place, but it's how you're interpreting it. It's figuring out like, okay, how long am I going to be here? And to a certain extent, that's like holding the emotions and then being like, okay, I'm here now, right? That's the truth of it. So I could, you know, start pre-manifesting all of these beliefs associated to this place. Or I can be like, okay, this is the lay of the land. You know, they got the ghouls over here. They got the goblins over here. They got the princes of hell or whatever over here. They got the devil is in that, you know, lands all the way over there that, you know, he shall not, you know, travel past this or whatever. Okay, cool. I got the lay of the land. And now what do I do? Right? Hopefully that makes sense. And so, but then staying in apathy too long can be like, okay, there's no charge here anymore. So now I've, you know, figured this out. I figured that out, but there's no spark, right? And so it's funny because as I was like, I don't actually want to be in this state, I started crying. And I'm like, oh, okay. But then the crying was kind of like in an inconvenient way. So I had to like go and it's funny because like, it's not that like my feelings are not invalidated. It's not like that type of energy, but it's like literally when you're also dealing with time, right? The timing of it would have sent this onslaught of events to happen that would have set up for my day to continue being like me feeling like I want to cry, because it would have set into motion these whole other things that were actually not what I wanted. So I was like, let me get out of this space and let me go cry over here, because I don't want these events to happen. Does that make sense? And so like not in like an invalidating way, but just, you know, I do want to like feel, but I want to feel in a way that doesn't set up the rest of the day to be just about that emotion, right? So anyways, I'm like, okay. And then I'm like, okay, I'm going to lay down and, try to relax. And I end up going into this dream. So I'm in this dream and I wake up in my bed, and the room is not completely changed. Let me be specific, right? Because we're about to get into Mandela effects and things like that. The room is not completely different. But the first thing I noticed when I got out of bed was that there was an extra electric plug in the room. And I have associated just in a natural way, and I'm not sure when this started happening, but I noticed like in the place that we moved before we moved to Arizona, that I would feel like there was a shift in time. Listen to me. A shift in time. And what I started noticing when I got these big shifts in time, let me be specific, a big shift in time, because sometimes you feel like something has shifted and things do shift, but there's different layers and levels of shifting, right? But I felt like the reality had shifted, which is a major shift. And I started noticing that, and Ray also noticed it too, with some of them, not all of them, but some of them, that we started having electric things pop up. Like, I kid you not, like electric, what do you call them? Like where you plug in, like they would pop up. And usually, which today is different, we're going to talk about that, but usually they pop up and they're like electric plug things that don't have sockets on them. So it's almost like someone like took out the electrical thing, and then just like covered up the hole with one that doesn't have any plugins, right? And I've had that happen twice in this room already, where two of them just pop up. And the kind of trippy thing with the Mandela effect, right, is that sometimes, not all the time, but sometimes, it's something that you can't definitely say was not there. So I want to be specific about this point. Because I know we start talking about reality shifting and things popping up and things like that. And some people want to talk about like proof or whatever. I want to make it very clear that in this moment, even when I talk about the recent one, that for me, especially working in the subconscious and the unconscious realm, it is not necessarily my primary focus to necessarily prove or disprove that it has actually always been there. And like, I'm just focusing on this aspect. And it could have been there the whole time. Now, two of them in this room, I am extremely positive that they were not here before. The one that I'm going to talk about, I'm not exactly sure, but there's a clue, and I'm going to talk about that as to why I believe that one is new or it reappeared. Okay, so let me finish this dream though. So that's the first thing I noticed, is that this plug appears, and I know for a fact, because even I'm looking at the wall right now where it popped up and it's not there. Now, it doesn't mean that, I think it was actually an extra one, so this one didn't move. So we have like a single one, and there's nothing behind it, and it's like in the middle of the wall, which also usually gives you a clue because it's in like very strange places. Like the one that popped up and it has like no plugins or whatever, it's like literally in the center of the wall. I mean, do you know what I'm saying? Like, even if it was just like a light switch one and it wasn't like an actual plug source, that would be the strangest place to put it in the center of the wall. Even the other one, like, it also doesn't have any plugs in it, right? It's just like the cover, like a cover. And it's like in the strangest part of the corner that I'm just like, it's not even the height for like even a light switch. And it's in like a very strange place. Okay. So anyways, I'm like, oh, this is a Mandela effect. I'm like, oh, we shifted. And so I get up and my husband is like looking through this thing, this like armoire that we don't even have in this house. And actually in the dream, I was like, oh, where'd that Like, where'd that armoire go? But now that I'm thinking about it, like, we never even had this armoire. Like, we never even had this. I don't actually even know where that is, but in the dream, I was like, oh, it's back. I'm like, how is it back? Because I don't even remember this. But in the dream, though, I did remember it, and it had a lot of different things that it seemed like I have forgotten about. A lot of things that I've forgotten about. There was also like a dresser drawer that was back. Now, this dresser drawer we did actually have. We had this dresser drawer like 10 years ago. And I was like, oh, wow, I haven't seen this one like in forever. And why is it here in this house? So anyways, and then I also noticed that my husband was talking about like he had a ton of gray hairs now, which I thought that was very interesting because I do have gray or silver hairs, which I think has to do with copper right now, honestly. And I think like oxidative stress, to be honest with you, because with every child I have given birth to, which also could point to like a vitamin deficiency as well. And also just not eating meat, but also having to uptake, more vegetables and stuff like that. But I've noticed progressively with each child, I have gotten more gray hairs, and they're like completely gray or white or whatever, like from the tip to the bottom. So it's not like growing out. So I'm like, oh, okay, this is something that we can reverse. So I haven't really been seriously doing the sulfur. Like, the sulfur stuff, what is it called? Oh, molasses. Someone say you should do molasses. Some people say you should do chlorophyll. So at some point I'm going to get into that as well. But anyways, he doesn't really have that many. He has like just like a few. But in this one, he was looking in this armoire mirror and he did have some. And I noticed that like I had less. And I was like, oh, interesting. There's something about like stress that also has to do with like this Mandela effect, which is interesting. And so anyways, what I got from it was like this Mandela effect was actually adding things to the house, right? Adding the plug, which could be considered electricity, right? Because that's what the plugs are for, is turning on electricity. Maybe I should look into like electrical sockets and how they're placed in the house. Because when I first saw this, I almost thought like, oh, it must be making room for more electric places, like to not get electricity from because they're closed, but they're making some type of room for more electric outlets for some reason. So I don't know if there's something about like routing the electricity to a certain place, or I don't know. But I was like, oh, okay. So I just interpret it as more electricity or more ability to gather electricity from the house or from something. That's kind of how I interpreted it. But things were being added to the house in this Mandela effect specifically. So we had a lot more things than that we used to have that we lost throughout the years. And there's also like stuff about meal prep in there. I had, like in one of the drawers, I had these little shakes and they were like cookies and cream shakes, but I knew that they were like protein cookies and cream shakes. And they were already set in there with straws and stuff like that. So I can just go in there and pick it out. But of course it wasn't in the fridge. It was in the drawer. So it had like refrozen from melting. And I'm like, oh, I got to move these to like the kitchen. But I was glad to have those shakes, though. And they actually look like professional shakes, like professional, but, like Smoothie King shake. Like, I didn't make them myself at home. That's what I mean. And so I'm like, oh, interesting. So I've got, like, some extra money to, like, go out each day and get smoothies, protein smoothies from Smoothie King. Okay, interesting. So anyways, it was like more money was in the house, but it was also like gathering stuff that I had lost, which also had value. So it wasn't just money. It was also situationally implied money as well. So when I woke up, I was like, oh, okay. So what they're saying is that, you're at a level now where maybe even simultaneously, I guess, that you need more energy. And some of this is going to be like, it's going to cause Mandela effects. So it's not in just a personal realm. Does that make sense, you guys? I hope this makes sense. It's not just in a personal realm. And when you're dealing with something that's just more personal, like belief systems or something, it might be easier to kind of set intentions and send them out, you know, and then things move because it's something personal within your own energy field that needs to be shifted. But when you're dealing with something that might be tied into like the collective grid or something, you actually need a Mandela effect, which I'm assuming is like timeline shifting. I don't know the mechanics of that, energy mechanics of that, but like a bigger shift, we'll just say like a much bigger shift to happen. So that's what I'm going to be working on, child, for this new moon is manifesting through through Mandela effects, because I'm not actually even sure exactly how the Mandela effect happened. I was just witnessing that it had happened. So I'm not even sure right now how we set this into motion, into play. So I'm gonna have to like kind of think about that and be like, you know, how do we even get there? But anyways, the other thing that I wanted to talk about as well, this other thing that's been coming up, and I want to just kind of propose it as an idea. So Ray and I have been talking about the idea of static characters versus dynamic characters. And this actually was, we were talking about one of his friends, and one of his friends is, you know, kind of looking into the Hebrew Israelites, you know, I guess in a sense of maybe wanting to join them or become one of them or something. So we're talking about Jacob and Esau. And in that conversation, we got into a conversation about static characters versus dynamic characters. And I was using the example of Teen Wolf with Scott. And what is his friend's name? Oh my gosh, I cannot remember his friend's name. But he plays not Blade Runner. Is it Blade Runner or Glade Runner? Oh, not Glade. What I cannot remember. Something Runner, not Maze Runner. I think he plays Maze Runner, but I forgot his name in the show, but we'll just call him, it's Scott and who? Let me just look it up, child. This is not hard to find. Scott. I cannot believe I cannot remember his friend's name. Scott McCall. And then his friend is, yeah. Oh, that's crazy. Oh, Tyler Posey. And who? And then there's another person named Jacob in 12 Mighty Orphans. And what does he play? Because they said played by Tyler Posey, but then they brought up this guy and said played by Jacob Aldrich. I'm not sure how to say that. Hurricane Bianca and 12 Mighty Orphans. Okay, I'm not sure why his name popped up next to it, but I think it's interesting because we're talking about Jacob and Esau, and Jacob popped up. Okay, but who's the friend, though? It's Scott and who? Derek Hale. Oh, yeah, Hale. And it was hailing last night, too. Helen Hale do sound. Styles. That's right. Styles. Okay. Styles Stalinsky. Styles. So anyways, Styles would be like the static character. Okay. And like when we're talking about, because we start getting into Static Shock, and he actually turns into a dynamic static character. But anyways, like, you know, like in literary, I'm pretty sure that the static character is one that's more of a foundational character. And so they are along for the journey with the dynamic character. So they do not have like a change, or we could say that they're in a longer transition to becoming dynamic, but they are, the dynamic character goes through a major change, right? Like static shock. He goes from like a high school, I believe, or is it elementary? I can't remember. But he goes from like a kid, we'll just say a kid, like living life and things like that, and having to make this decision about race and his belief systems and, not getting beat up or whatever. And he becomes, and his name is Virgil. He then like has this event happen to him, right? That sends him into this whole new reality that he has to intake everything that's going on with coming, electric powers. So he's a dynamic character. He can't stay the same. And then we have his friend, which I forgot his friend's name too, but, he doesn't have the same situation immediately, right? So he remains static for a while. He's kind of supporting through, these changes. And he's also getting a firsthand experience, which is also important, a firsthand experience with the dynamicism before it's his turn to power up. Because he also, figures out ways to become dynamic. And I think he does get like the power of like, super genius or something like that. That's what Ray was saying yesterday. And so we're talking about these static and dynamic characters. Now, in the sense of when we're talking about God, or we're talking about major players in religion, or even, mythological creatures and things like that, there is this thing with ancient being associated to forever. Right? And it makes them very static. Like to say that, we'll just say, because we're talking about hell, like Lucifer and Satan or whatever, right? Which are not the same beings. And there's like a whole different thing with Lucifer, Lightbringer, Venus. I'm aware of those things. But just in the context of like the, more accepted mythology of this, the accepted lore of this, just in the context of what the traditional belief system is about this. That Lucifer is like still in hell because he's been in hell since the beginning of time, that that he's never changed based on the archaic beliefs. He's never changed, that he is even still, even could be considered a he and not a she, that, he's even still connected to Abrahamic traditions that maybe he didn't decide he wants to be connected to. Maybe he wants to be a more traditional African belief systems now. Maybe he doesn't even associate himself to the light anymore, a light bringer, illumination anymore. Maybe he's more of a dark now, a dark being. Maybe he took on that persona of darkness and now he is, a void being, right? Even going to like Norse mythology, like Skadi is the goddess of snow and she's always been associated to snow. And that's the archaic kind of foundation point. But what if, now she wants to be a spring goddess? Do you know what I'm saying? And so there's this dynamicism. I don't know if that's the right word. Dynamicism. We're just going to go with it. Okay. To them. And I think to a certain extent, I've also noticed this with like the hypnosis community as well. I'm pretty active in some of the hypnosis Facebook groups, at least active in reading. Sometimes I respond depending, but I've noticed that there's kind of like a point where people don't want to go past it. And it's primarily, in my opinion, has to do with like, it brings too much uncertainty. And some people feel like, keeping it to the foundation, right? To the box, to the thing that we built it on, the things that we know, and everything else is not provable, is like a safer kind of option. However, it does also stick you to a timeline. And so that's kind of where I found, especially in my own personal experience, that there is a big schism and gap that can happen between what the archaic, old information is that there might be proof on. But then with mystic experience, where people have mystic experiences, spiritual phenomenon, conversations with energies, beings, entities, And the information has shifted or changed, or they put more, information towards the archaic. But some people have personalities that want to kind of stick more with what we know. And I think, it always reminds me of that TV show Merlin from 2009. I love that TV show so much. It's very rare that I go back and watch a TV show, and that's on my list of TV shows that I go back and watch, like from the beginning, time to time. But anyways, at the beginning of Merlin, we have his dragon. He's like the last dragon lord. And his dragon is basically narrating his life as he's walking into the city where Arthur is. And at this point, they don't know each other. He doesn't really have a clue of what is before him. And so the narration in the beginning is basically narrating Merlin as a young boy, grow up in this place. He's got a mom here, and he's actually embarking on this journey of things that have been set in place, but he is unaware of that. And by the time that he is done in this place, he will have become this legend, right? And I'm bringing that up in context of this static versus dynamic, the past versus the present, is because in the present times, because the past is so heavily focused on and people want you to stick to, like Hecate has always been associated to the three-headed dog. So if she starts being associated to, like now she wants to be on a griffin, or now she wants to be on an ostrich, people will be like, I don't think that was Hecate because she's always been associated with this. Do you know what I'm saying? But when you're recreating it in modern times and you're bringing people to where you are now, the lore has to be built. And then there has to be some type of like major connecting point to where you are now and the lore that you have now, and then connecting it back to the past so that people understand that like Hecate is not just an archaic presence for the end that you have to reach back in time to connect with. She's not just reaching out from the past. She's also modern. She's also here now. She's all, do you know what I'm saying? And I think that is something to consider. And though the quote unquote proof on that is just open to people's experiences, I also want to offer that ancient people were also people. There's not something about their archaic stories and the time frame that it has taken for their stories to catch wind over generations that makes their experiences in those moments any different necessarily in mystic experience than someone who's having mystic experiences today. And we just don't have the time frame of 1,000 years into the future that people are associating, being like, oh, this is a great mystic of our time. Does that make sense? I feel like that's something really important on the new moon to talk about. So I'm going to also now like circle back to the recent Mandela effect when I woke up from this dream. And so I get out of bed and I'm like, okay, let me look at the room. And I'm like, okay, so there's not actually an extra plug-in thing in the direct space that I was talking about in the room. That's still the same. So I'm like, okay, let me make like a mental map of these plugs so I know what the plugs look like. And I want to like solidify that, right? So I'm like, okay, this formation is like a triangle. This formation's like one. This formation's like a diagonal. This one is like just a dot. And then I get to this other wall, and there's a plug-in. That, again, I cannot say for certain wasn't there before, but I'm pretty sure it was not there. And I'm going to talk about like the differences in this one that popped up. It's like I said, I have two other ones. The difference in this one that popped up and why I'm pretty sure it was not there. Okay, so the difference in this one is that it does have plugs in it. That's number one. It does have plugs in it. I'm thinking about it. I'm like, has it? has it been there? I don't know. But anyways, I'm also just using it as an anchor because maybe at some point, like the plug will, like the one in the dream will show up at some point, and then I'll get to talk about that and be like, hey, that popped up. But for some reason, I just feel like, I don't know if this one has always been here or if it popped back up or what. I don't know. Reality is strange. And it could have been there the whole time. Like, that's also a possibility. But I'm going to talk about why I feel like the energy of it is kind of shaking. Okay. So like I said, the first thing is that it does actually have plugs. So you can plug in things. So it's different from the covered ones. And that is not typical of the ones that I see that I know for a fact were not here. Like there's a, period, it was not here. Okay. But this one does have plugs. Now, the reason that I'm almost positive that it is not, right? Let me move this out of the way. Or if it is, I feel like it shifted or something. Something is strange with it. Okay. But the reason that I feel like it's weird is that it has child safety plugs in it. It has child safety plugs in it. And we did have child safety plugs when we first got here because our youngest was like a year. And so we did put child safety plugs in there. But all the child safety plugs are in there, and there's like a break in it. And so I'm like, I don't know, because I just feel like I don't know why we would keep all of the safety plugs in there, or we don't even have any we haven't even had any safety plugs in the house in a very long time. So the fact that there would be safety plugs in there like after 2 years, and like I don't remember that one has safety plugs in it, I don't know. It's just, it's giving, I don't know about that. It's giving, I don't know about that. But I do know in general, for some reason, at least in my reality, maybe also in your reality, there's something about plugs and Mandela effects. The other thing that I would say, and I'll probably talk about this one in a whole nother video, another thing that I associate with Mandela, quote unquote, Mandela effects, are palms changing. Now, I know some people have talked about in general. Oh, look, this palm has red on an X on my. Oh, what? Hold on, that's crazy. Wait a minute, wait. What? Okay. No, because that's crazy. I'm like, yeah, palm changes. And there is literally like this X on my hand, and there's like a dot in the center of it, and the dot is like red, and it's not dye, but it's red. There's no reason for it to be red. Like the whole X isn't red, but in the center it is red. And I was just, that's a whole nother conversation, child. That's a whole nother conversation. But yeah, I noticed the palms changing around the time that I did the 369 method. And also, yeah, that's kind of tripping me out. But palms changing. Now, I know that it's not unheard of for palms to change over time, but I'm talking about big, like noticeable changes. Big noticeable changes. And I also have like a whole bunch of pen marks on this one, which is very strange and very odd. Now, I was using a pen yesterday, so that could explain this hand. But I also think it's very interesting where these dots are, though. But that could explain that. Like, I was using a pen, and that's fine. But this red mark, though, And then just the place that it is, like it's right in the center of this X. And I was just talking about, well, not just talking about, I was listening to it yesterday, but I was listening back to the video that I am going to post today, which is about the QHHT session, I was talking about the crossroads, and they have the cross alignment and then they have the X alignment, and how the cross is like the open circuit. It's like the foundation circuit, whereas the X is more of like a closed circuit. So when you have to, and this goes back to a dream that I had. Maybe I'll talk about that dream. This goes back to a dream that I had, where in order to capture negative energies, you have to counter rotate Merkabas. I'm gonna get into it, I promise. Counter rotate Merkabas, and then you actually have to put them off of their axis to lock them in place. So it's not enough to actually spin it because it's still in motion. But then you actually have to tilt it off of its axis. So I was talking about when they say that Earth got knocked off of her axis, she actually got knocked in place to stop moving. Like not moving in general. She could still move in general, but she is locked into a formation. Okay. Yeah, that's a whole nother conversation. But I feel like that was talking quite enough for this video, and it's 9/11. Interesting. I feel like that was talking quite enough for this video. So I'm going to put the other stuff in a different video. At some point it would be fun because I do want to like go live and have conversations and stuff like that, but just like do like just power hours of just talking about a whole bunch of spiritual information. But I'm like, let me be mindful of mindful of people's time, and like, just not put all of it in one, because it could be a lot of information just at first. But yeah, so I'm going to put the other information in a different video. Okay. All right, my friends, I'm sending you lots of hugs, lots of love in general. Hope it's helpful in general, but I actually didn't mean to say in general. I meant to say, as always, that's what I meant to say. As always, if you have any comments, questions, or anything like that, you can always put a comment down below. Try to get back to them, especially right now. The channel is, a few lovely people out there, so it's really easy for me to get back to comments right now. And then if you, want to say something else or something you want to email me, you can always email me at QuantumAcacias@gmail.com. And it is multiple Acacias, okay, with an S, not Acacia, Acacias. Okay. All right, friends. And 9/13, September 13th is such an interesting day. But, okay. All right, friends. Bye. Okay, so it is like 3:00, and this is so cool. I just wanted to update this. Okay, so I was like, oh my gosh, I'm going to post this video and stuff like that, and it's super interesting. And then I was talking to my husband, and today is the new moon in Scorpio. So happy new moon. I don't know if I said that, but today's the new moon in Scorpio. It is November 20th, 2025. And this new moon is very interesting. Like the energy is if it ain't broke, don't fix it. That's a lie. It might work out, and it might work out in someone's favor or in your favor, and you might still get to your goal. But is it what you asked for, though? I feel like there's such a thing of sticking to what you asked for and not getting, buttered into something that you're not actually looking for or asking for, or it's not showing up in a way that you actually want to, sticking to your standards about something. Okay, so anyways, I'm talking to my husband, and I was telling him part of the dream about this Mandela effect, about this reality shift. And he told me, and this is why I started telling him about it, because he came in and he started talking to me about going to this place called Zippos or Zappos or something like that. And he was telling me that he was going, he could be the first one to patronize the business. He's been going through this thing of really learning about being on time and the benefits of on time. And then not just on time, right? Because my mom used to say on time is late, ahead of time is on time. Early is actually on time. So that's been a big theme for the last 2 months or whatever. So anyways, he was like, oh, what if I could be the first person to patronize this business? I haven't had that experience before, being so early that you can actually be number one. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. I'm like, oh, what does this place sell? And he was like, oh, it's a protein place. They sell protein drinks. I'm like, what? Because I was literally dreaming about, and I was telling you guys, like at the beginning of this, I was literally talking about that there was some quantum shift going on. And I noticed the thing on the wall, which is my symbol of Mandela effects in waking life. I'm talking about waking life. This happens in waking life. Okay. And that there was like this armoire on our left that we have not actually had like in this reality. Maybe it's a family member's now that I think about it. But it was like an armoire on the left, and that was on his side. And I think it could be his family member's armoire, which had a mirror. And then on my side was actually a dresser drawer that we had like 10 years ago. And in that dresser drawer, it was like I was meal prepping. And I was actually looking for something, and like every drawer, there was something different that like I had at a point in time, and like I lost it. And it was like it was returning, and then the ones at the bottom. So it was like 4 drawers. The first 2 were like things from the past. The last 2 were like present day things. And the present day things were also future things, because I understood when I was opening up the drawer and like doing meal prep. I don't currently do that, but it is something that I want to get into as I am focusing on body recomposition, right? And that's about, upping your intake of protein. And so there was like this protein drink in there that was cookies and cream, and it was like a protein drink in there. And I was like, oh yeah, my cookies and cream. And I had them like lined up for the day. And I was like, oh, I need to go put these like in the fridge, not in the dresser drawer. And I knew that it was specifically a protein drink. And it was like in a professional cup. So it was not Smoothie King. It was this place Zappos, which happens to me all the time. Like there's always stuff like that that's happening. And so, there's kind of this bleed through of what's going on in the immediate environment, which is also meshing with what's going on in the future, which is what has also been going on in the past. And they're all interplaying with each other, right? Because at the time I was sleeping, my husband was going to this place. So we were kind of in a similar energy space, though we were in different places. So I wanted to share that. Oh, yeah. I think I did say like happy new moon in Scorpio. So I wanted to share that. Ooh, 311. Okay, so side note, last thing I want to say, 311, I have literally been seeing like Hecate stuff. And I use her as an example. I think in this video, I used her as an example. I've been seeing her stuff all the time. Yeah. When I was talking about static versus dynamic characters and like, what if she pops up on an ostrich? I've been seeing stuff about her so much. And that is my number for her is 311. And then Lilith for me is like 1313. 131. I also associate that to our African goddess Edemele also. But as like a little last side note, if you've been having connections to Hecate, people say it differently. I usually say Agate. That might be a sign of some type of communication or something like that. I did see something about her like a while ago where I was in the void space and I was like walking up to her door and I wasn't sure if I was going to walk in or not. And I think that came with the black orchid. I think I might have talked about that on summer solstice or around summer solstice. So yeah, black orchids, if that comes up for you or something like that. Yeah. And there's also this really interesting magic card that's like the black lotus. I had a dream that my friend was a white lotus and I was a black lotus. And we started like looking into it, and there was like this magic card called the Black Lotus that was like a magic. Yeah, it was like some type of magic duel card or something. I don't know. But anyways, yeah. Okay, those are the last messages. Okay, friends. Yeah, and like I said, if you have any questions, comments, concerns, anything like that, you can email me QuantumAcacias@gmail.com. And then you can always just comment down below in the video as well. Like I said, as the channel is still growing right now, it's very easy for me to get back to comments. So if you've had similar experiences with quantum shifting, quantum jumping, if you have noticed the outlet thing, I don't know what I've been calling them, light switch plug-in things, but outlets. If you've been having experiences with the outlets, let me know. Or if you have some other type of interesting way that you know that something has happened or some shift has happened, let me know. I love to hear about it. Okay, bye.